The night was heavy with rain. The small wooden house stood alone at the edge of the forest. Inside, John sat by the table with only a lamp burning. He was used to nights like this, quiet and empty. But tonight would be different. A sudden knock shook the silence. It was soft at first, then louder. John froze. It was late, too late for visitors. He lived far from town. No one came here at night. His first thought was trouble. He grabbed the old flashlight from the shelf and moved to the door. Again the knock came, this time weaker. Almost like someone had no strength left. John opened the door slowly. Rain blew in, cold and sharp, and then he saw her. A figure stood on the porch, bent and trembling. Her skin was pale, but not human pale. It shimmered like silver under the lamp. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly blue. In her arms she carried a small bundle. The sound of crying came from it. Strange and soft, not the cry of a human baby. More like music mixed with pain. John's heart raced. For a moment he thought it was some nightmare. But the woman's lips moved. She tried to speak, her voice was broken. Like wind through broken glass. "Please," she whispered. Then she fell to her knees. Holding the child out, John stepped back, fear tightening his chest. This was no human woman. Her body was thin, too thin. Her skin lined with marks like stars. But the child looked at him with wide, glowing eyes, and it reached a small hand toward him. The cry turned to a soft hum, almost calling. John's fear shifted into something else. He felt pity. He felt pulled by the look in those eyes. Rain poured down harder. The woman's strength was fading fast. She pressed the baby against her chest and looked at John with desperate eyes. Even without words, he understood. She was asking him to take the child. Her trembling hands pushed the bundle forward. And then she collapsed on the wet floor. John stared, his mind fighting. He wanted to run, to lock the door, to pretend this never happened. But the baby made a sound again. It was a sound that cut through the storm. It was helpless, hungry, full of fear. John knelt down, his hands shaking. He picked up the child. It was light, too light. Its skin warm with a strange glow. For the first time in years, John felt someone needed him. The feeling was stronger than his fear. He looked at the woman. Her chest still moved, but weakly. She was dying. Her hand touched his boot, barely able to lift her fingers. Her lips formed words he did not know, but her eyes told him enough. "Protect the child, keep it safe." John swallowed hard. The storm raged around him, but inside his chest was a louder storm. He carried the baby into the house. The glow lit the room in a strange, soft light. The cries stopped as soon as the baby touched the warmth of the fire. It looked around as if it understood where it was. John wrapped it in a blanket, still staring at the door. What if someone followed them here? What if this was a trap? But the woman was still outside. John rushed back and dragged her into the house. She was soaked and shivering. Her body looked broken. John laid her near the fire. She opened her eyes weakly. For a moment their gazes locked. She gave him a small nod, the last strength she had. And John felt the weight of the choice settle on him. He had no family, no friends nearby. No one who would know this secret was now his. A human man, a dying alien mother, and a baby glowing with strange power. The night would not be quiet anymore. The world outside was dangerous, but something even more dangerous might soon arrive. John could sense it. He looked at the baby once more, and for the first time in years he whispered aloud, "You're safe here," but deep down he knew. This was only the beginning. The storm had not ended. Rain still beat against the windows and the wind howled through the trees. Inside the small wooden house, John stood frozen. In his arms, the strange glowing baby shifted and made a low hum. The alien mother lay near the fire. Weak and trembling, her breaths came short, shallow and painful. John's mind raced. He was only a mechanic, a man who lived alone at the edge of town. He had no weapons, no training, no plan for something like this. What was he supposed to do with an alien child? He thought of calling the police, but the image of black vans and soldiers came to his mind. If they saw the baby, would they even ask questions? Or would they take it away and never give it back? The baby's eyes glowed softly. It reached up with small fingers and touched his chest. The glow spread across his shirt for a moment. It was warm, not burning, but almost alive. John felt his heart beat stronger, like the child was reminding him that life still mattered. He looked down and the baby looked back at him. Not like a helpless creature, but like someone who already understood. The alien mother coughed, her body shook. Her lips moved, but the words were broken. John knelt beside her. Please don't speak. Save your strength, he said quietly. She lifted her hand toward the baby, then toward him, her eyes begged. Take care of the child, keep it safe. She had no other way to say it. But John understood. John shook his head slowly. Why me? He whispered. He wanted to believe he was the wrong man for this. He was not a hero, not a soldier, not even a father. He was just a lonely man in a quiet house, but still the baby clung to him. And the mother looked at him as if he was the only hope left. The fire cracked. Shadows moved across the walls. John thought of the world outside. People were already afraid of things they did not understand. If word spread that an alien mother and child had landed here, the world would hunt them, not help them. The army would cage them. Scientists would cut them open. And neighbors would call them monsters. John could not allow that. Not after seeing the fear in the mother's eyes. Not after holding the baby and feeling its small heartbeat. But fear ate at him too. What if someone had seen them arrive? What if hunters or worse other aliens were already on the way? The glow of the baby was not normal. It could not be hidden forever. John paced the room, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. He had to make a choice. Either send them away and hope for mercy from strangers, or take them in and risk everything. His freedom, his life, his world, the baby whimpered. John looked down and saw tiny tears forming in glowing eyes. Without thinking, he rocked the child gently. The cry faded, replaced by that strange humming sound again. It was like a song. It filled the house and calmed his nerves. The alien mother closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed, but her lips curved into the smallest smile. She trusted him, John realized with a shock. She trusted him more than anyone else on this planet. He sat down by the fire, the baby in his arms, the mother resting on the floor beside him. He whispered to himself, "This is madness." But he did not put the baby down. He held it tighter. The glow warmed his chest again. A bond was forming whether he liked it or not. Suddenly a sound came from outside, a low rumble. Then the chop of blades in the distance. John froze, his ears straining. Helicopters. He knew the sound well. He had heard them during forest fires years ago. But tonight there was no fire, only a hunt. They were searching for something. Maybe they were already searching for her. John moved quickly. He closed the curtains, lowered the lamp. The room fell darker, lit only by the baby's soft glow. His heart hammered. Time was short. He had no more space to doubt. If he hesitated, the baby would be gone. The mother would be taken, and his home would be destroyed. John whispered to the baby, "You don't belong here. But maybe you belong with me." The baby gave a soft hum. The alien mother let out a weak sigh, and John understood his choice was already made. He would protect them no matter what it cost. No matter who came looking, a human man, a dying alien mother, and a glowing baby, together against the world. The choice was no longer just his, it was destiny. The night dragged on. John had not slept. He sat in his chair with the glowing baby in his arms. Every sound from outside made him jump. The wind, the rain, the echo of helicopters fading into the distance. He kept waiting for a knock, a shout, a crash of soldiers breaking the door. But none came, only silence and the quiet hum of the baby. The alien mother still lay near the fire. Her breaths were slow, weak, but steady. John checked her again and again. He brought water to her lips. Though she barely sipped, her eyes opened sometimes. Watching him, she could not speak. Yet her gaze said more than words. She trusted him. That thought both warmed and frightened him. The baby wriggled in his arms. It reached out with tiny glowing hands. When its skin touched his, strange marks lit across its body. Lines like stars, spreading in patterns. John gasped, pulling back for a moment, but the child only hummed louder. The glow filled the room like soft lantern light. John looked toward the curtains nervously. If anyone outside saw this light, they would know it was not normal, not human. The mother coughed again, her body shaking. She raised a trembling hand and pointed at the baby, then at John's chest. Then at the floor. John frowned, not understanding. She tapped her hand weakly on the wooden boards. John leaned closer. And then he heard it. A sound beneath the floor, soft, faint, like a low pulse. He pulled the rug back and saw nothing but plain boards. Yet when he placed his hand down, warmth spread through his palm, almost like the baby's glow. The mother gave the smallest nod, her eyes closing again. John's skin chilled. There was something under his house, something she already knew. He wanted to ask questions, but there were no answers. The baby squirmed, humming in that strange musical tone. Then John heard another sound, a faint click from outside. His blood froze. He stood quickly and blew out the lamp. Only the baby's glow remained. He held his breath, listening. Footsteps. Slow, careful, circling the house. John crept to the window and pulled the curtain a finger's width. Through the rain, he saw shadows moving. 2 figures dressed in dark coats. Not soldiers, but not neighbors either. They carried strange devices that blinked with red lights, scanning the ground, scanning the walls. John's heart slammed in his chest. They were searching for something. Searching for her, for the child. He backed away, holding the baby tighter. The mother's eyes fluttered open. She saw the shadows and fear filled her face. She shook her head. Pointing again to the floor, John understood. She wanted him to hide, but where? The house was small, no safe place except maybe. Whatever lay beneath the boards, John placed the baby down for only a moment. He pulled at the wooden planks with all his strength. One cracked loose with a groan. Underneath was a dark, hollow space. A small crawl area, big enough for him, the baby, and maybe the mother. The warmth grew stronger as he opened it. The baby's glow spilled into the hole. The wood seemed to hum back like it was alive. The footsteps outside drew closer. One of the men tapped on the wall. Another shone a beam of red light across the windows. John's breath caught. He had seconds left. He lifted the mother with effort, carried the baby in one arm, and lowered them both into the crawl space. Then he climbed down himself and pulled the boards shut above. Darkness swallowed them. Only the baby's soft glow gave light. John's heartbeat was loud in the silence. He held his breath as footsteps creaked on the porch. Voices spoke in low tones outside. He could not understand the words. But he caught pieces. Signal close, one said. Find it, said the other. The baby whimpered. John pressed it close to his chest, rocking it gently. Shh, please, please, he whispered. The glow dimmed slightly. The footsteps moved around the house again. Metal scraped against the door. John closed his eyes, praying they would leave. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the voices faded. The footsteps drifted away into the storm. John let out a shaky breath. The mother stirred weakly. She reached up. Touching the baby's head, the glow brightened again. The strange hum in the wooden floor grew louder, almost like the house itself was listening. John realized with dread this was no ordinary house. The aliens had come here for a reason. Maybe he had been chosen long before tonight. He sat there in the dark, the baby against his chest. The mother's eyes closed once more, and shadows of fear grew heavier in his mind. The soldiers, the strangers, the signals, they would not stop. And now secrets hidden under his own home were waking. Secrets that could either save them or destroy them all. The storm had passed by morning, but the air was still heavy with fear. John had barely slept every time his eyes closed. He heard again the footsteps, the voices, the scrape of metal at his door. The memory left his heart racing. He knew it was only a matter of time before they returned. The baby stirred in his arms, glowing faintly. The alien mother lay weak near the fire. Still alive but fading, John felt helpless. He had no medicine. No doctor who could treat someone not from this world. He only had food and water, and his will to protect them. But the world outside was already hunting. When the sun rose higher, John heard engines in the distance. He rushed to the window. Pulling the curtain just enough to see, black vans rolled down the dirt road into town. Men in suits stepped out, speaking into radios. Helicopters circled above the forest. It was clear now the search had begun in full. They were no longer guessing, they were closing in. John's chest tightened. He could not keep them here much longer. The baby's glow was unpredictable, sometimes dim like a candle, other times bright enough to light the whole room. Anyone watching from outside could notice. And last night proved that strangers were already tracking signals. If the house was not safe, where could he go? He carried the baby to the crawl space again, staring at the strange warm boards. The hum was still there, faint but steady. He wondered if the house itself had been built on something alien long before he came. Had the mother known this place? Had she been led here by some signal? Questions swirled in his mind with no answers. But one truth was clear. Hiding here forever was impossible. The baby made a sudden cry, sharp and echoing. John winced. It was not a normal sound. The cry carried like a strange song, vibrating through the walls. The mother raised her hand weakly, trying to calm the child. But John could already see lights flashing outside in the far distance. Vehicles moving fast, drawn closer by the sound. He grabbed a small bag and began to pack. Cans of food, bottles of water, an old blanket. He wrapped the baby close to his chest and lifted the mother onto his shoulder. She was light, far too light, like her body was almost empty. He staggered under her weight but kept moving. His mind screamed at him to hurry. Then it came, the knock at the door, loud, heavy, nothing like the weak taps from the night before. This knock carried authority. It was followed by another, harder, shaking the frame. "Open up," a voice shouted, deep and commanding. John's stomach dropped. They had come, and there was no more time. He dragged the mother toward the back door, his boots thudding against the wood. The baby's glow pulsed stronger as if sensing the danger. John pushed through the kitchen, fumbling with the old lock. The front door shook again, voices calling louder. This time not just one, but many. They were surrounding the house. John pulled the door open and stepped into the backyard. The forest loomed dark and wide. He knew the trails well. He had walked them for years. Now they would be his only hope. Behind him, the front door splintered with a crash. Men stormed into the house, shouting orders. John did not look back. He pushed forward into the trees. Branches whipped against his face, mud sucked at his boots. The mother groaned softly but clung to his shoulder. The baby hummed louder, a glow spreading across John's chest. Behind him, shouts rose, beams of flashlights cut through the forest. Dogs barked, engines roared, the hunters were close. John forced himself deeper into the woods. His lungs burned, every step felt heavier, but he did not stop. He remembered a cave on the far side of the hill, a place no one visited. If he could reach it, maybe they could hide for a while. Maybe the stone walls could block the strange signals. But the baby's glow flared again, so bright the trees lit up like it was dawn. John cursed under his breath. The glow would give them away. He held the child tighter, whispering, "Please, not now, please." The glow dimmed a little, but not enough. He heard shouts behind, closer now, they had seen. The alien mother stirred on his shoulder, her eyes half open. She raised a weak hand toward the baby and murmured a broken word. The glow steadied softer now. Calmer, John felt relief wash over him, but it would not last. At last he reached the hill. The cave mouth yawned dark ahead. He stumbled inside, the cool air wrapping around them. The walls shimmered faintly, marked with strange patterns. Not natural stone, but carved long ago. John's breath caught. The mother gave the smallest smile. She had known. This place was not random. Outside, the hunters closed in. Their flashlights swept the ground, their radios crackled. John pressed against the wall of the cave. Holding the baby close, the glow matched the markings. Light spread across the stone. Symbols lit up one by one like stars waking. The mother whispered something John could not understand. The cave itself seemed alive, and John realized with awe and fear. He had not just found shelter. He had stepped into something far greater. The cave walls glowed faintly. Strange symbols burned with the same light as the baby. John stood frozen, his breath heavy. He had never seen anything like this. The alien mother leaned weakly against the wall, her silver skin shining in the glow. Her eyes looked at him almost calm. She had led him here on purpose. But outside, danger was closing fast. The sound of boots thundered in the forest. Dogs barked, men shouted, and radios crackled. Their lights swept over the trees, hunting like wolves in the night. John knew it was only a matter of time before they found the cave. He pressed the baby close to his chest. The child hummed softly as if sensing his fear, but the hum carried through the air, echoing across the cave walls like a signal. John's stomach twisted. They would hear it. The mother lifted her hand toward the glowing markings. Her fingers brushed the stone and light spread wider. The walls seemed alive, pulsing like veins. She whispered something John could not understand. Her voice was weak but filled with meaning. John realized this place was not just a cave. It was a refuge, a place built for her kind long ago. But could it protect them now? A sharp beam of light cut across the cave entrance. John's chest froze. Voices called, "Here!" Tracks lead inside, footsteps pounded closer. The baby whimpered, its glow rising again. John whispered desperately, "Quiet, please." But the light only grew brighter. He had no choice. He turned to the mother. "We have to move," he said. She nodded faintly, her eyes filled with sorrow. John carried her again, though his muscles screamed. The baby pressed against him, glowing hot. The cave tunnel stretched deeper. He stumbled forward. Every step echoing behind him, men stormed the entrance. "Don't let them escape," a voice barked. Gunmetal clattered. The chase had begun. Bullets sparked against the cave walls. Stone dust rained down. John ducked, shielding the mother and baby. The glow from the child flared suddenly. A wave of energy burst outward. The gunfire stopped for a moment. Men shouted in panic, their lights flickering. John's eyes widened. The child was protecting them. But the power was wild, uncontrolled. He pushed deeper into the tunnels, the path twisted and turned. Symbols glowed along the walls like stars guiding him. Yet every step echoed too loud. The hunters would not give up. Dogs barked behind, claws scraping against stone. John's legs burned, but he kept going. His only thought was to get them out alive. The tunnel opened into a wider chamber, high walls carved with alien designs. At the center stood a stone pillar glowing faintly. The mother pointed weakly toward it, her lips shaped a single word. Safe! John staggered toward the pillar. The glow from the baby matched it. For a moment, the whole chamber lit up like a star. Then came the shouts again. The hunters poured into the chamber. Weapons raised, John turned, heart hammering. There was nowhere left to run. He pressed the baby close and stood in front of the mother. I won't let you take them, he shouted. His voice shook, but his stance did not. The men spread out, circling. Red lights blinked on their guns. One of them spoke into a radio. Target secured. The child is here. The baby's glow flared violently. Energy rippled through the air. The hunters stumbled, some falling. Sparks burst from their devices. John shielded his eyes. The power roared like a storm. The mother gasped. She whispered something in her strange language. Tears glimmered on her face. The baby was too young to control its strength. But it would not stop. It would fight to survive. John held the child tighter, whispering, It's okay, you're safe. Calm down. The glow steadied for a moment, but then another blast shook the chamber. Rocks cracked and fell, dust filled the air. The hunters shouted in panic, retreating toward the tunnel. John pulled the mother against the stone pillar. Trying to shield her, the glow surged once more, and the whole chamber trembled. The pillar cracked open. Inside it, a hidden passage glowed bright. The mother touched John's arm with her last strength, her eyes pleaded, Go. John nodded, lifting her once more with the baby against his chest. He stepped into the passage. Behind them, the chamber collapsed, sealing the way. The shouts of the hunters faded into rubble. John stumbled through the new tunnel, gasping for air. The glow ahead grew brighter. It led upward, toward the forest beyond the hill. At last he burst out into the night. The stars above clear and cold. The forest spread wide before him, endless and dark. The baby hummed softly against his chest. The mother closed her eyes, whispering faintly. The hunters were behind them still, but for now they had escaped. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. The night air cut cold against John's face. He stumbled out of the secret tunnel with the alien mother on his shoulder and the glowing baby against his chest. The forest stretched wide and endless before him. Every tree seemed like a shadow waiting to betray him. The sound of collapse still echoed from behind, where the hunters had been sealed inside the cave chamber. But John knew the escape would not last. They would dig, they would climb, they would find another way. And when they did, they would come harder, faster, more dangerous than before. John pushed forward into the trees. The ground was wet, slippery from the storm. His boots sank into the mud. His arms burned from carrying the mother. The baby hummed softly, but its glow dimmed as if it too was tired. John whispered to it, Just a little longer. Stay with me. The stars above gave faint light, but the forest was dark. Every sound of snapping branches made John's heart pound. He could almost hear footsteps chasing, though none were there yet. At last he reached a small clearing. Ahead, the ground rose to another cave hidden by thick vines. He remembered this place from years of hunting deer. Few people knew it existed. It might serve as a final shelter. John carried them inside, his chest heaving. The space was narrow but deep, the walls damp with moss. It was no alien sanctuary like before, only stone and shadow, but it would have to do. The mother stirred weakly, her voice soft as wind. She touched his chest and then the baby's head. Her eyes filled with sorrow and warning. John leaned close, desperate to understand. But her words were broken, her strength fading. She wanted him to protect the child no matter what. John nodded, his jaw tight. He already knew. This was not just survival anymore, it was a promise. Outside, the distant sound of helicopters returned. The thump of blades shook the night air. John clenched his fists. They had tracked him this far. They would not stop until they had the baby. He set the mother gently on the cave floor, wrapped in a blanket. Then he stood at the entrance. The baby in his arms, and he waited. Minutes passed like hours. Then the forest exploded with noise, engines roared, men shouted, and lights cut through the darkness. Dogs barked, their howls sharp and wild. The hunters had found them. John's chest tightened. This was it. There was nowhere left to run. A spotlight swept across the clearing. Men in black armor surrounded the cave mouth. Weapons raised, red lasers cutting through the mist. A voice boomed through a speaker. "Step out now." "Give us the child." John's hands shook, but he pulled the baby closer. His voice rose, rough and angry. "You're not taking them." The hunters moved closer. Their leader raised his hand. "Then you will die with them," he said coldly. Before John could answer, the baby's glow flared bright. A wave of energy burst out. Shaking the ground, the hunters staggered, some falling to their knees. Their devices sparked, radios screaming with static, but more men pushed forward. Bullets ripped into the cave walls, stone exploding around John. He ducked, shielding the child. His ears ringing, dust filled the air. The mother cried out weakly, reaching for the baby. The glow around the child pulsed harder. It was no longer humming softly, it was crying, a high sound that made the air itself tremble. The cave shook violently, rocks cracked, falling like thunder. The hunters shouted in panic but still fired their guns. John pressed his back against the stone. Trapped between enemies and falling rock, he whispered, "I'm here. I won't let them hurt you." The glow wrapped around him like a shield. Bullets struck but bounced away. John's eyes widened. The baby's power was protecting him. But the energy burned hotter, stronger, almost too much. The cave walls groaned, ready to collapse. The alien mother dragged herself forward, her body weak but her eyes fierce. She touched the baby's tiny hand and whispered something. The child's glow steadied, no longer wild. The light spread across the cave, wrapping John, the mother. And even the stone itself. The hunters stepped back. Shielding their eyes, one shouted, "Fall back!" But it was too late. The baby released a final surge. A wave of light blasted across the clearing. The forest shook, the air cracked, and every machine went silent. When the light faded, the clearing was empty. The hunters were gone, scattered by the blast. Their vehicles smoking. Only silence remained. John dropped to his knees, the baby still glowing softly in his arms. The mother lay beside him, her breath shallow, her strength nearly gone. She smiled faintly, her hand resting on the baby's head. Her eyes met John's one last time. She trusted him completely. Then her hand fell, her body still. The cave grew quiet. John bowed his head, his chest heavy with grief. The last stand was not victory. It was sacrifice. He looked at the baby. Its glow gentle now. Eyes wide and innocent, John whispered, "I'll protect you, no matter what." The words hung in the cave like a vow. The danger was not over. The hunters would return stronger. But John was ready for the first time in years. He had something worth fighting for, and he would not let it go. The cave was silent after the blast. Dust floated in the air like ghostly mist. John knelt on the cold ground, the alien mother lying still beside him. Her silver skin no longer shimmered, her chest no longer rose. She had given her last breath to save her child. John felt the weight of her loss crush him. But in his arms the baby stirred, glowing softly. Its small hand pressed against his chest as if it could feel his pain. John whispered, his voice breaking, "You're not alone. I promise you that." Outside the cave the forest smoldered. The blast had destroyed machines and scattered soldiers, but John knew they would return. The world would not stop hunting because of one failed attack. Now the search would only grow bigger, louder, more dangerous. The baby's power had revealed itself, and power always drew greed. John stood slowly, the child in his arms. He looked down at the still face of the mother. A sadness deeper than words burned in his chest. But her last wish was clear: protect the child. And now that promise was his life. He carried the baby out of the cave. The forest was quiet. No birds, no dogs, only smoke drifting through the trees. The baby hummed softly, eyes glowing like tiny stars. John looked to the sky. The night was clear now. The storm long gone above, the stars shone brighter than ever. He wondered if somewhere up there was the child's true home. A place of peace, a place where no one hunted them. But that world was far away. Unreachable. Here on Earth, the baby had only him. He walked through the forest until the first light of dawn. Each step heavy with exhaustion, but each step chosen. The child needed food, shelter, safety. John thought of his old house. It was no longer safe. Burned into the memory of the hunters. He would have to move, hide, keep traveling. He would become a shadow to protect this child of light. When the sun rose, the baby reached out with its small hand. The glow warmed his skin. For a moment, John felt a strange calm. He realized the child was not only powerful, but also gentle. It did not cry for its lost mother. It only looked at him with wide, trusting eyes. As if he was its whole world now, John's throat tightened. He whispered, "I'll be what you need," but as he spoke, the distant sound of engines rumbled again. John stiffened, turning toward the horizon. Smoke trails marked the sky. More helicopters, more machines. The world was already moving again. The hunters would not stop. They would send armies. They would send everything they had. John tightened his grip on the baby. He had no weapons, no army, no plan. Yet he felt no fear. The mother's sacrifice, the child's trust, his own promise. These gave him strength. He was just one man, but he carried something greater. Not just a child, not just an alien, but hope. Hope that humanity could be more than fear and greed. Hope that one human could choose kindness when the world chose cruelty. He reached the edge of the forest. A small road stretched ahead. Leading to distant hills, John looked at it, knowing it was dangerous, but also knowing it was the only way forward. The child cooed softly, glowing brighter with the rising sun. For the first time, John did not see the glow as a threat. He saw it as a gift. The child was not meant to hide forever. One day the world would have to face this light. And when it did, it would face his choice as well. John whispered to the baby, "They will call you alien. They will call you danger." He paused, his voice strong now. "But to me, you are family." The baby hummed, the glow spreading warmly. It was as if the child understood, as if it accepted him. John took his first step onto the road, the weight of the world chasing behind, but also the light of something new in his arms. The day ahead would not be easy. Every town would hold risk. Every face could be an enemy, but John was ready. He was no longer just a lonely man in the woods. He was protector, guardian, father. The hunters would return, stronger than ever, but when they came, they would not face an alien child alone. They would face John too, and he would fight with everything he had. As the road stretched before him, he looked to the sky one last time. The stars faded in the morning light, but he knew they were still there, watching, waiting, maybe guiding. He whispered quietly, almost to the lost mother above, "I'll take care of your child, I swear it." Then he walked forward, one man, one child against the world, and for the first time in years he did not feel helpless, he felt chosen. The choice of humanity was now his.